Hi, Omar. Thanks so much for joining me for an interview ahead of your play going up, Blue Kimera, which we'll chat about shortly. Um, so I'm really curious to know about you as a creative across different forms, and you're an actor as well. So my first question is, what came first? Did you start out acting or writing, or was it another creative pursuit?
I actually thanks for having me. Nice to meet you. I actually started writing. Writing was my first avenue into the creative world. From a very young age, I used to like read books, and my aunt would read to me quite a lot. So I always had that kind of infatuation really with books and storytelling, and I
Hmm.
started to write myself quite a lot. And I really realized at school I liked English. So
Hmm.
spend a lot of time writing short stories and writing I tried to write a novel in my early teens. I read Harry Potter religiously, as I'm sure many other people did in the mid 2000s. So that's kind of how I got into the creative space. And then eventually I did drama at GCSE. And I don't know what happened. I think growing up in like a South Asian household, Bollywood was a big part of my upbringing, and just watching Indian cinema and the what I don't know, it was just sort of so engaging for me at a young age. We'd all sit around the telly and watch it, and I was like,
Mm.
that's well, I'd like to maybe do that as well. And then I realized how seamlessly they kind of blend writing and acting. So when I started my GCSEs, I had the choice to do drama, and I chose drama, and I kind of just it was a trickle effect like that, I'd say. But it definitely began with writing. Writing was definitely my first love.
Hmm. Okay, great. Do you remember the first script you like tried
What?
to put together?
I actually do remember the first. So the first script I ever wrote, like script wise, so this isn't like prose. It was for my GCSEs, I did quite well, and naturally my parents were like, "You should be a doctor. You should be like a engineer or something." And
Mm.
for my GCSEs, I didn't revise. I was one of those kind of kids. I was like, I don't need to pick up a book, and I got really good grades. And then I got for my first year of A levels, I got DU, like doo doo, which is like
Oh,
it was unbelievably bad. It was like a real life-changing experience. My whole world
yeah.
was like shifted. And I don't know what it was about that experience, but a part of me thought it was really funny. Like I was like, how has this happened? Like it seemed so surreal. So like I was at a part-time drama school at the time, because my parents had succumbed to the idea that I wasn't going to be a doctor. So I was allowed to do that. And then I wrote a sitcom about that experience called The Resit, where the
Okay.
cold open is like he walks into the school, he's high-fiving everyone, it's results day, there's like banners, everyone's really excited. And the before the credits, like the resit comes on the screen, it's like the grades are revealed and he failed abysmally. And the story is his sort of rise back up socially within his family, friends wise, like, and also just finding out who he is. So I wrote that at the age of like 18, 19, and I sent it to the guy who was my drama teacher at the time, and he knew the guys who made the In-Betweeners. So there was a real like feeling of like he was like, I really like this script. I sent it to him on Word. It wasn't even on Final Draft or Cell Text. It was on Word, and he was really kind enough to read it. And he was like, it's quite funny. There's a lot here. Why don't we try and get it made? Ultimately,
Mm.
nothing came of that. That script is still kind of bouncing around, and I still really like it. My idea was always that I would play that character. I'm 27 now. I was like, hey, I don't think I can play him now. Maybe I can narrate it when it gets made, but that really taught me a lot about persistence, I think, in this game,
Mm.
and collaborating. Obviously, up until that point, I'd already written by myself in my room. I now had another person who was well
Mm.
versed in the industry and with scripts, and he was like, "Do this, do that." So I learned a lot about the process, sort of my own kind of schooling as to what it
Mm.
would take to make it in this industry. So that was actually my first script.
Okay. From tragedy to something else.
That's it, man. You got to make the best of situations. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't,
Yeah.
you can't dwell too long in it. Can't wallow.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I think I'll dive in and ask, because obviously that first script that you've written very much came from your personal experience as a young person. Um, So, what was the seed for your current play, Blue Kimera? And can you tell me if I'm saying it wrong and
Uh,
why it's spelled differently?
yeah, well, I think it's fair to say everything I write is kind of based on real life experience. I don't
Mm,
think I took the approach as a writer that the best stuff comes from the truth and the life you've lived and the kind of experiences you've had. And I draw from that and I extrapolate ideas from it. So the core of a lot of
mhm,
ideas come from that place of truth, which I think is what allows my writing to translate. And I think is what allows people to resonate with the work. Because although, for example, Blue Chimera is about two people that meet in therapy and they go on a road trip to kill the five people that ruin the girl's life the most,
yeah.
that's quite a wide, mad idea, but at the core of it, it's a tragic love story about two people that find something in one another that they can't find anywhere else, and it's like a chosen family element of it that I feel like resonates with people like who have had experiences like that, where you find someone who you it's like a tragedy. At the end of the day, you can't be with them. You won't be with them. Do you know what I mean? You don't
Mm,
align in certain ways, but in some ways you do align. And it's
mm,
kind of celebrating the romance of a doomed love story, which I've always seemed to find myself engaged in. I feel like so. This again came from an experience I had with someone I knew, and someone I was quite enamored with, and I just thought they were very cool. And the way this person was is they were very exciting in that they would just do anything at any time. It was like, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Whereas I'm quite risk averse because I'm quite focused on my career and what I want to achieve. I wouldn't do certain things like, like just for fun, just steal a sweet from a shop or like, do you know what I mean? Just little, it was like little things. So this person wasn't a murderer by any stretch of the imagination, but that's what this story allowed me to do. It allowed me to sort of
mm,
exaggerate aspects of the relationship, the personalities, and explore the ending of it for me, because when it ended I had loads of thoughts, and this
mm,
really allowed me to explore you know the dynamics of the relationship, which I maybe wouldn't have been able to think about myself if I just thought about it literally. I had to
mhm.
heighten the stakes and be like, what
Yes.
happened between these two people that connected in this way but didn't connect in that way? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So, yeah, an extrapolation.
Yeah,
Um,
and you also asked about. I just remembered Chimera. Chimera, as you know, is something that you really want that you can't attain, and it's typically spelt with a CH.
yeah.
I spelt it with a K because in the story she writes it on her wall as as like a child when she's talking about her childhood. They visit somewhere that she used to frequent, and Chimera is written on the wall with a K. Obviously a misspelling because she was a child and didn't know how it was spelled, but she really liked the
Mm,
word. And that's kind of a big theme in the story, something that you really want that you can't attain on all fronts.
mm,
There's I don't want to ruin it too much, but there's stuff she really wants that she won't get, and there's stuff he really wants that he won't get. And
mm,
that's the tragedy of the story. And I just am really drawn to doomed romances. I don't know why. Like if you've seen an eternal sunshine of a spotless mind,
yeah.
I think that's a really good example. Probably Blue Valentine's a bit darker. Eternal Sunshine was a bit nicer at the end, when he says like, I don't care, when she's like, we're just gonna break up. And he's like, I don't care, let's just be present, let's live in the moment. And again,
Mm,
sentiments I really appreciate in my day-to-day life as well. Presence, just enjoying the moment for what it is and experiencing for what it is. Not worrying about what's to come or what has happened. I feel like that's
mm-hmm,
where stress and anxiety comes from when you worry about stuff that's not really in your control. Life's good now, let's just sit in it.
mm-hmm. Nice, thank you. And when you write, is it how much of the process is collaborative? Because you mentioned the importance of involving other people. But how soon do you do that? Is it when is it when the idea is not even fully formed, or is it when you've got the first draft? Like, yeah.
I only ever really approach anyone with an idea once I have a first draft. I don't know that I'm necessarily like, or I shouldn't pigeonhole myself, but I don't know that I've had the experience to collaborate with someone on the script from the beginning. I think I like to come to people with a finished article, or certainly something close to a finished article, and then have a conversation where it's like, what thoughts do you have? Because I'm really interested in thoughts of like, so I'll come to you with a thing, and it's like a template, and it's like, let's maybe color it in together, if that makes sense. But the template I've made, I feel like I'm always quite sure when I write my process, at least, the kind of writer I am, is I always know what I want to say, and then it's about getting someone to maybe reel in, or typically reel in the ideas and be like, okay, why don't you try it like this? Why don't you try it like that? And that's what I'm really interested and excited about, the opinions of other eyes on the work, you know, as opposed to, I don't want to limit myself.
So what advice would you give to a fiction writer, for example, who wants to try their hand at writing maybe the first play, or first draft or first scene even?
Just write something on a whiteboard, you know, and you'll see it every day, and it will kind of, in subconsciously, I feel like you'll get more ideas from it, if that makes sense. Like, that's the kind of advice I always give. It's like, just open your mind to the idea that you can tell a story, that you can write. Don't, because I feel like a lot of people also give you this thing where, like, it's hard. They try and tell you that, oh, it's really difficult to write, or it's like a strenuous process. And it is, but it doesn't have to begin like that. It can begin coming from a place of ease and expression, truth. And, you know, another thing I do, which is probably more technical, is I'll watch, for like screenwriting, I'll watch films, or I'll watch TV series pilots that I want to make a similar show or story to, and then I'll track what they're doing in each scene. So, for example, with Blue Kimera, I watched Bones and All a few times, and I was like, and it's not that it was a direct. It's just, it gives you an idea of a template. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and I'd rather do that than read a book. For me, like, I'd rather do that than read like a book on screenwriting. I'd rather just watch it in action and see, okay, so what was the point of that scene? That was an introduction. Okay, what was that? Okay, at this point they do this. And then you kind of have a template, and then you apply your ideas onto it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's
Yeah, I
something I'm
think
finding.
it's like, I read like a musician talking about deep listening to albums as they were like developing their own musicianship. So it almost sounds a bit like kind of like deep watching, in terms of really paying that kind of like detailed attention to like the pilots, as you're saying, and seeing how like the pieces fit together. So cool, thank you.
100%. Yeah, that's it's the same. Like, I sometimes I don't even find watching TV shows or plays relaxing, because my brain is always kind of going like, what they're doing. You know what I mean? So sometimes when you do that kind of way of doing it, which I do, it takes like, films become less relaxing. I have to do something else, like go to a gallery and look at like art, because I can't draw and I have no interest in drawing. So it's like, I can look at these, be enamored by the art and the skill and the technique that takes, and I'm not trying to copy or be inspired in the way where I'm going to go home and do something like that. You know what I mean? I can just relax.
Yeah, it's like palette cleansing. I think like mental palette cleansing to try a different art form. Yeah. Or to like experience different art form. And can you summarize the experience of getting an international Emmy Award in 3 words, or is that not possible?
No, I can certainly try it. It was inspiring, reaffirming, and you know what? It was familiar. It felt familiar because,
Okay.
and you know why I say that is because I'm a big believer in like manifesting and visualizing, and I feel like in an industry like this, where a lot of it can feel very like you're pushing yourself, for like at some parts, not at points when you're working with the amazing NYT or other companies that I've worked with, but certainly when you're sitting alone in your room and you're writing a script and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall, you have to, I think, be your own cheerleader, and visualizing and manifesting, and, you know, just believing that it will happen is a great way for me that I find that I do it. So when I was there, it did feel like I was like, I've seen this before. Do you know what I mean? This feels like I should be here, and it feels like I deserve to be here. I've worked hard enough at this craft, and I want it. So familiar is a
Mm.
nice third word I think I'll use.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think that's all the questions on my end. And any last words you want to say to encourage the audiences to come through to watch Blue Chimera?
Yeah, no, for sure. I just think if you want to hear something that feels like very current, it's like very, I think I'm told a lot about my writing is it's almost too indulgent. I really enjoy the nuance of just normal chit chat, and it doesn't, I don't want it to feel like you're watching a play. I want it to feel like you're stumbling upon something you like that is happening and you might not, you shouldn't be watching. Do you know what I mean? I
Mm,
want it to feel really real, really authentic. So I think that's the kind of pull that I like to think the writing has, and I try and lean on that. And that aside, it's a mad story. It's about two young people that fall in love and they go on a road trip to kill some people, and it's about what happens on the way. And I just think with today's zeitgeist, it fits the vibe, and it's very passionate. It's
mm,
very current. It's very it's just it's like real, man. It's like real. That's how I say it. And I'd
mhm.
love for people to come. I'd love to hear what people think, and I'd love to keep telling this story post NYT, and let's keep growing it, and let's get this to the top.